Welcome to the Flora podcast, a place where we help you create a life you're excited about. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for another one of our fabulous conversations that we've been having with members of our community. So today I have the pleasure to introduce you to someone who I have gotten to know on a professional level and now a personal level. We actually were in a class called RRT, or Rapid Resolution Therapy, several months ago, and I just fell in love with her energy and her vibe and her passion for what she does. And I hope that I know that you guys are going to fall in love with her as well. So Bre, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm super pumped. Right out of the gate, I have to point out that today is 11/22/22 on a Tuesday. Like, that's a vibe. So I'm super.
I saw that earlier when I was doing my journaling. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I love that.
Yay. Okay, so for those people just getting to know you, share something that they might find interesting about you to get this conversation started.
All right. Well, the hook is that I spent 6 days in jail while pregnant, and my whole life is kind of a miracle. So that's all.
Please elaborate. I love this.
I know. It's interesting, right? No, I fully know the shock factor that presents. I mean, look at me, middle America, just like, oh, she would never break a rule. So that's kind of what led me to RRT is tons of trauma and trauma bonding and things like that. You can dive into my podcast, season 1, episode 1, although not great quality. I do tell the story. You can tell I was so nervous to share that story, like on a huge platform, but now I'm writing a book about it. So I have no shame. I'm totally neutral, thanks to tons of work that we've been doing in the same spaces together. So, God love trauma healing. That's my thing. I'm obsessed with it. And, it's fascinating how we all bring our own flair to it. There is no competition in this world because each of us has lived through something that is going to relate to an individual in an entirely different way on a different level, sometimes in different stages of their journey. Like, there's room for us all here. And so thank you for.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, and the main theme here on my podcast is aligning into the dream life that you've always wanted, or that you now discovered that you wanted through little tiny 1-degree shifts. And often those shifts happen because of a night in jail, or a couple nights in jail, or because of a pregnancy, or because of a session with a mentor of RRT, or something that changes your life and you're like, oh, wow. And sometimes when we are in that thick of it, or in the struggle of why isn't things working? Why? We have all these questions. And then all of a sudden this pivot happens, and it's a little tiny 1-degree shift, but those 1-degree shifts sometimes are massive. All of a sudden you're like, oh,
yeah.
What?
Yes. Yeah. For me, my take on it is the compound effect, which was a really important that I read, but same, that's, my whole platform when I talk about my story. And it wasn't just like get out of jail and like, oh, look at you on the up and up. It was like, I took 18 months from alcohol. Like I've dated train wreck boyfriends that, now that you know your patterns and like, why
yes.
It's like the next right action, the next right action, the next right action. That's what I always say to people. And so, the same thing, just, it might seem small at the time, but it all adds up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So share with us a little bit about those little pivots that you've taken to get where you're at today, because you are such a powerful rapid resolution therapy practitioner, and the space that you hold is just incredible. So share with us kind of a little bit of your journey of how you went from being in jail to now doing what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, that's a whole book's worth, but the Cliff Notes version, really, honestly, it was just what I said, was taking the next right step. Like, do it freaking scared, just do it. I don't believe in coincidences. And so I never have, even through, bouts of being super like hyper religious on this journey too. It's just once you just like accept that, like I am here for a purpose. I might not know it. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen to me. Do you swear on your podcast? I swear all the time.
Yes, I do. I'm a Marine, so of course.
Listen, gets pushed.
Yes.
So it's really just been, honestly, like my personal development journey. I can credit it to like the network marketing company that I've been involved with that was kind of an escape from nursing school, from my second nursing degree, which was if the nursing school is just like hell on earth. It's crazy. But in that network marketing opportunity, they really pushed the concept of like personal development and reading just 10 minutes a day. And I think it's common practice amongst all these direct marketing companies. And, I'm a glass half full kind of girl. Like people can bitch about the internet and how terrible it is. People can bitch about MLMs and how they're pyramid schemes and whatever. But really think about like the opposite side of it is all of these people, they're like, go read 10 minutes of a book that's going to like help your mind. And like we do it. And then for me, that was just the little catalyst. Like, I don't know. I've been an avid reader forever. I've journaled actually for over a quarter century. I did that math the other day. I was like, well, okay,
Nice.
we're going to need to back this up. But truly, it's just been, I think it's curiosity. Just a curiosity can start anything. And then your self-awareness. And then it all kind of just unfolds into like, your accountability and your willingness to examine your beliefs and consider new ideas and even take off things that you once held so true and they just don't serve you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that I heard you say was about trusting the process and kind of just trusting. So, and then I also heard you say curiosity. So sometimes our curiosity will lead us to an answer that we have a really hard time trusting that's the next step. And like, we feel it in our bones, but like share with us kind of that trusting process of how do you start to learn to trust, especially if you've trusted yourself in the past and it's landed you in jail, or it's landed you with another shitty boyfriend, or it's landed you in a space where you're like, what the actual fuck? Like,
yeah.
What? So share with us how we can really start to just trust when we do get in that place of curiosity.
I love that. Okay. So I actually talk a ton about 3 business principles or selling, angles. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. Yes. And so when those examples you gave were fantastic because they're real life, I personally believe that we find ourselves in these misaligned situations because we think we're trusting ourselves or following our gut or something like that. But there's all this shit on top of us. There's like all this coding and conditioning and our own stories and our own limitations. So really, in hindsight, for me personally, those things that I thought were like the right thing to do, there's duality here too. There's a huge chunk of duality. So like at the time, probably like that's what I was supposed to do because I believe I'm living a very purposeful life, even though it might look fucking crazy, but like a soul contract, right? But then underneath of that, it's like, wow, my true self, like I know those points, those milestones in my life that really shaped me and made me who I am now, which yes, thank you. If I did know myself deeper, if I actually liked myself at the time, I wouldn't have driven a getaway car. Like, no like self-respecting woman does that. But trauma bonded with my son's dad and my, childhood trauma. I just like packed that shit up in a suitcase and carried that right on into my 20s. Like, you can peel it all away and dissect it. But again, everything that I did led me to this point now. So that curiosity about like, well, why did I make a shitty decision? Or like, I wonder why my pattern is this. And just
yes,
it's such a journey.
Right? No kidding. So, when did you realize that you were ready to? Okay. Before I ask that question, let me preface that for those of you who are not familiar with rapid resolution therapy, it works on a subconscious level and basically closes that open tab that is open in the subconscious and in the nether regions of our brain, for lack of a better description. Okay. So, we've all heard like, oh yeah, just journal on it. If you got some crap, journal on it, go to therapy, do all the things. But one of the things that we all realize in doing this for decades is that it never really clears it completely. You never really completely close that tab. It's almost like you open your computer and there's something playing, like an audio, and you're like, where the fuck is it? And you're literally looking at all the tabs and you're like, oh my God. And then you just end up just like shutting down your whole computer, turning it back on, and the stupid thing is still playing. And you're like, oh my God.
It's like that one like red icon that won't clear from your fucking message box when you know you've opened them all. You're like, where is it?
Yes, exactly. So we've all been there. And the thing that rapid resolution therapy does is it finds that open tab and actually closes it for good. So good. So when did you realize that you were in that self-help loop, that, wait a minute, this is not working? And then all of a sudden you stopped and you're just like, I need something more. And you got curious, which then led you to RRT. So share with us kind of that pivotal moment when you realized you were out of alignment by continuing on the old school self-help stuff that just really wasn't working.
I love that. And I feel like you might share the same perspective. I think therapy is great. It's like training wheels, you know, like when you're starting to, because our society is so closed and we always have to keep our cards close to our chest and all that shit. Well, okay, that's a nice way to open you up. But I'm an RN first. And I know, you know, for example, an infection, if we don't put the right antibiotic with it, it's not going to kill the infection. Like you need a match for whatever's going on. So I too had done lots of therapy, and I'm a huge proponent of meds, whatever. That's not what this is. It's an evolution, like I said. And so for me personally, I actually had like a very like line in the sand event happen, which was this past spring of 22. It was kind of like a 1-2 punch. Like it was an uppercut and then a right hook. It was something else. So I had something triggering me within my relationship that I had going on at the time. And I was like, very interesting. This is really fucking hypocritical. I'm like, wow, Bre, like, where's this coming from? And so I was at a point, and I feel like everything happens on your journey as it should. Like a year ago, to examine this issue, I wouldn't have done it the same way because I wasn't healed enough to tackle it yet. Yep. So I just really was very honest with myself, and I actually uncovered like a deep wound related to my deceased father. And at that point, you talk about knowing, liking, trusting yourself. The more you like flex that muscle, the more like that message comes through. And then there's human design, and that's a whole different thing. So I'm a 2/5 splenic projector, and so I'm very intuitive. And I had an inkling then that this could just like totally rock my world and my relationship that had been so, you know, just almost disgustingly like good.
Yeah.
Because the two overlapped. And so the childhood trigger and then that relationship, or the childhood trauma and then the relationship trigger. So I was very committed to just, you know, this is my thing. Let me heal it. I've done a lot of repair with both of my parents. It was just a, you know, stereotypical, like lower middle class childhood. There were drugs, there was violence. There was a period where we were, I mean, really on paper homeless, between 6th and 7th grade for me, like couch surfing, there was just a lot of shit. So I knew, because I've done so much of the work and I was like, this is on a subconscious level, because on paper, these things don't make sense. And so I was like, subconscious, what do we do for subconscious? And I'd been seeing like clinical hypnotherapy on TikTok. I was like, oh, okay. And in my small little town in central Iowa, there's a clinical hypnotherapist. And it ended up that my ex-boyfriend could not hold space for me. Like, I think my trigger triggered him. And it just was this like, honestly, it was this implosion of my world. And and am an anxious attacher, and still this spring was healing a lot of shit, and especially the daddy wound.
Yep.
So I was fucking dysregulated. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I think that was right around when either Andrea was just dropping regulate or I found it. Regardless, that was exactly like what I need, and that thing. I mean, your description of the open tab was perfect, but also I think we would be remiss not to mention just the fucking weight that is lifted when you can close one of those tabs. You don't even know how much energy is like tied up in that shit until it's gone. You're like,
yep.
Oh my God, I can breathe. And so like she helped me through my breakup. It was messy for me, but it was like so perfect. It was like, blow this motherfucker up so I can build something brand new on top of it. And then I've just been like geeking out ever since, like doing and I just go back to it and back to it. And of course, that's how we found ourselves in Dr. John Connolly's training. What a gem, national treasure that man is.
I know. I love it. So for those of you who don't know who Andrea is, it's Andrea Crowder. She's one of our mentors. Incredible woman. Oh my goodness. And yes, she led us to Dr. John Connolly, who is the inventor of RRT, rapid resolution therapy. So one of the things that I talk about a lot here on this podcast is decluttering. And I talk about it in my book. I don't have it with me. I normally do, but in my book, The 1 Degree Shift, I talk about the 9 types of clutter that hold us back. And there's a lot of clutter. One of the pieces of clutter is emotional and spiritual clutter. And that, just what you were talking about, when you clear that tab, all of a sudden, all that clutter just dissipates. It just neutralizes. And we don't realize, I mean, yes, physical clutter, you can feel the weight because it's in a box that you're holding it and you're schlepping it to Goodwill and whatever. The same energetic thing happens when we clear through all this other stuff. We literally feel this tangible shift that you're like, whew. And when you watch people cleared, you can see it. Like you literally can see their energy just brighten. Their face starts to just soften. Their shoulders relax. They start to breathe deeper and their whole life changes. And I love, love, love that you have started your practice doing this. I personally am just doing it with my one-on-one clients. And at a very smaller level, you are just like, yes, let's do this, and you're doing groups. I love that program that you just launched, and you're writing a book, and oh my gosh, I love how you've taken this and you're like, this is it. This is huge.
I've been waiting for too, though. Truthfully, in my network marketing world, I've been a nurse for a long time. I started as a nursing assistant in high school. And so, of course, I'm only 28. But true, I am still young, mid-30s. And so it seems like, being a nurse, but I'm like, I am checked the fuck out. I know that my purpose is bigger, but it's given me a great foundation. And, for years I was like, oh, this is the ticket to financial freedom. This will get me out of nursing. Like, get me out of nursing. Like, that's really the wrong motivation. And thank God, thank the universe that didn't happen until I was ready, because now I've healed on such a deep level. And then RRT came along and I was just like, oh my God, let's fucking go. Like, my brain, me, like, some of it just, again, patterns and behaviors and things that you're like, why the hell do I do that? And you don't even realize how you've like created these attachments, and then your brain shows up and you're like, wait, how did those two things get linked up? This makes no. So like, really, I feel like RRT is like giving us the keys to our kingdom. Like, here, we're talking about co-create a life, but like, if you get your nervous system on board, like, you can really do some shit. Like, buckle up, let's go.
Right, exactly. So share with our listeners and watchers what you mean by regulating your nervous system through RRT, if they're not familiar with it.
Yes. Okay, I have a perfect example. Growing up poor at the poverty level, money was always scary, fleeting, not for me. And then the programming I got, because I've always been a person that's liked verbatim what I was told as a child: you have champagne tastes on a beer budget. Like, fuck, like an 8-year-old, what does that mean? But that's it. I got logged in. So taking wealth alignment patterns, WAP, Wow. Amazing. Now the real kicker, like, the post test was the situation I found myself in. I manifested a portrait session, like fine art portraiture. Okay, cool. We get to sit for this. Well, they're going to try to upsell you. That's what they do.
Yep.
Fully knowing this. Oh, also low key, I was engaged to a photographer once. So like, I already know how to do. We're just going, we're going to have fun, like, I don't know. I was able to really not have many expectations anyways, which I think also comes along with clearing other shit in your brain, because you can just be neutral so much more of the time. And you're like,
yep,
this is baseline now. Cool.
Yeah.
In the viewing session. And of course, like, and props to this photographer. Beautiful. I can't wait to get my portrait, but here's the kicker. It's like $3,000 for one, whatever inch thing. Frames another G, and you got all this, whatever. And only the photos that you choose to go to print are saved. So even though like 9 of them were cute, like, you're keeping 3, sis. Fine. I was able to be so neutral in that session. Like, previously, shame. Oh, I would have been so red in my neck, and like, just my stomach would have been churning. Oh my God, what do they think of me? And I sat there and I'm like, because remember, I manifested this fucking thing. It wasn't like I was like, yeah, I've got like 8K. I think I'm just gonna get some photos. Like, so I'm able to just sit there and talk about money as though it's numbers on paper, because really that's what it is, right? We just assign fucking meaning to money. And the fact that I was sitting there and telling both the pro photographer and then her like sales manager in training, I was like, yeah, before I found RRT, I would have been so like mortified to be even having this conversation with you guys right now. And they would like present me an option and be like, yeah, I don't think that's really aligned for me. And then they'd present me another option. And I wasn't playing hardball or running any games. I just honestly was operating in alignment. And I came out with an in-house financing plan, because I actually did want one of the pictures. But I'm a traveling nurse, single mom. And to be honest, like, I spend a lot of money on plane tickets, which I'm A-okay with. So like, I don't know. I just don't have like a lump sum for photos, fine portraiture. But the operating in alignment, and again, managing, like, and I think managing is kind of like a misnomer and a little elusive, because it's truly just like, once you get that tab closed, it's like, it's closed. And if it pops up, it's just something lighter that can be closed and moved out totally. So it's not managing your emotions around it. It's just literally rewiring how you even feel. Like, I just felt totally like neutral about the whole thing. Like, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. Like, my purpose and whatever my impact has nothing to do with me buying your portrait. And if I run into Ivy, I'm not going to feel like, oh my God, what does she think about me? Just, yeah. So it's like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely.
That was the whole test. Oh, not only that, I had in-house financing, and she gifted me a frame just cause. I was just like, thank you, university.
Of course.
All right. If you insist.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. So that reminds me of a time where, oh gosh, this was probably 15 years ago. I started to dig into A Course in Miracles, and I actually stopped on one of the, I think it was like lesson 11 or 12 or something like that, or maybe even 17. I can't remember. But anyway, it was nothing has meaning.
Yes.
This glass has meaning because we give it. Oh my God. I like had a freaking meltdown. I was like, yes, it's got meaning. Oh my, and like literally then I was like, what the fuck is the point of living if nothing has fucking, I was having an existential crisis. I was like, I was so attached.
Oh, that was so liberating. I was like, oh, fuck it. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that nothing has meaning. And like, how freeing is that? And that's one of the things that RRT gives us, is that freedom to just say, fuck it. Like, there is no, we attach the meaning. We give this meaning. We give all the emotions meaning. We give that meaning. We give that meaning. And when you neutralize everything, what happens is all of a sudden it is what it is. That's it.
You're so much more able to control your outcomes. Like Saturday, I showed up 2 hours early for an appointment, which is so typical. you're having trouble guessing my zodiac, I'm an Aquarius sun, Scorpio moon. So
I love it.
like, whew, I don't know where I am or what day it is. So at that moment, I was like, noon my ass. I was like, clearly, I'm like, let me get my calendar open. I'm sure it said 10 a.m. And I was like, oh, except it says noon. And I was very present at that moment. And I was very self-aware. I was like, well, I have two choices. I can either let this fuck up my Saturday, or I can go make an adventure out of it. And I feel like, again, like when you neutralize so much other shit, then you have this energy in this little like mound, and you're just able to be like, oh, it's all right here. What do I want to do with it? I can choose, instead of it's like, oh my God, it's tied up over here worrying, and it's tied up over here. Like, oh my God, now I'm embarrassed because what she think about me? And then, it's just like fragmented. So we start down these like bullshit stories, and just literally like, you just don't feel anything. It's just like, I'm like consciously aware that I might be awkward in this social situation right now, but I still don't give a shit because literally don't feel anything about it. So I'm like, whatever.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And it's like, because normally people are so, and myself included, in the past have been so anxious or nervous or preoccupied or depressed, or all the things. And it's just like, you do get into that neutral space where you really can just be present.
Yeah.
Just be here now, as Ram Dass said. It's like literally you're here.
Yep. That's all that matters is right now.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
It's crazy. Well, and one of the things it's interesting is that people from our past who try to manipulate us or try to say things as a jab.
Yep.
It does not work. Like, I actually just had a 1-star rating put on my book on Amazon. This was very funny. And I changed my name to Flora Sage. That's not my birth name. I was born with Marie. I never resonated with that name. Like, literally, when I was a kid, people asked me what my name was. I was like, I blank stare. I'm like, because I never felt like Marie was in alignment with me. And I was like, whatever. And then I got married and divorced 3 times. And I got their names. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to pick my own name, So I did a lot of research. Yeah, I did a lot of research. I'm like, I love Flora Sage. Boom, let's do this, So so anyway, so they're like, Marie. And I'm like, are they trying to like trigger me? Because I have nothing but compassion for Marie. She was a codependent. She was a hot freaking mess. That's not even part of my reality anymore. And it's just like, it's so interesting because the more we do this work, the less actually that stuff doesn't trigger us. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like surprising when all of a sudden people are like throwing all these arrows and we're like, what are you doing? And we get no reaction because there is no it's completely neutral. It's like throwing those like, what is it, Nerf darts at you. It's like, oh, okay, this is fun. Let's see how long I can, whatever. And that's one of the things is that so often we're in reactionary mode from the people around us with those thoughts. Well, what is she going to, oh God, what is she going to think of me? What is he going to think of me? And then, all these bullshit things that we've been in the past, these situations that have warped our view of reality and have caused us to kind of be codependent or stay in situations that don't serve us, that it's this huge ripple effect of toxicity that you're now stepping out of, and you come out, you're just like, wow, okay, I'm good. Like, and you start to see it as this beautiful thing that you went through, but it doesn't control you any longer.
It's just part of your story. I know.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like, to get really woo in a big sense of it, it's like stepping out of the matrix. Like, you're just able to disentangle from like, you're like, why do you even care? Almost like some not pity, but a little like compassion, like, oh honey, look at you expending all this energy about shit that just doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Like, so zoom in, zoom out. Like, sweetheart, I'm gonna need you to zoom out here because like we've all moved on.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, and the reactions from those people, they just get pissed. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you, but this is not affecting me in any way, shape, or form. So sorry, not sorry.
Not at all. And too, it helps to stay grounded, to see other people. I mean, for me, I can just see people through this lens of like, oh, you're bleeding on people who didn't cut you. And that's really sad to me too.
Yes.
Like, but when we're so hyper vigilant about other people, when we've been in homes or spaces or relationships where trauma is the name of the game, like we
Yes.
have to be on guard all the time for any energetic shift and any change in perception of who we are. Because, hey, my mom and I are in a repair phase and things are great, but we'll call a spade a spade. Like, as a young teenage girl, like one day my mom, we could be best friends and she could be like pouring me a screwdriver. And the next day I would be the biggest bitch ever, where, the universe doesn't revolve around you. And just like all this shit that I heard for so long, which turned me into an ass kiss. And I didn't even like half of those asses I was kissing. And now I'm just glad that I don't do that anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And like my dad's second wife, she was a bully. She was a bully, and everybody enabled. And when I said I'm done, ooh, the backlash I got. And I'm like, I'm not going to engage with that energy any longer. And people came, well, now I'm going to have to deal with her. That's
no, you
not
don't.
my problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, that's not my problem. And no, you don't. Like, that's not my problem anymore. Like, I'm going to be in my bubble. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to heal myself. And if that's being selfish, so be it. That's what I was called selfish so many times. But yeah, so for people who are watching this, who want a taste of this freedom, who truly are like, I'm done kissing ass. I'm done walking on eggshells. I'm done feeling anxious and preoccupied by all the bullshit stories, all those open tabs, all the stuff that we just, no matter how much therapy, no matter how much journaling, no matter how many self-help classes, no matter how many self-help books we read and listen to, it's still not completely clearing. How can somebody get a hold of you so that they can start to get a taste of this? Because I know in working with you, you hold such beautiful space for people. You have such an amazing energy, totally non-judgmental in any way, shape, or form. And you really, truly give people the opportunity to be able to have this massive shift in their life, which is really, it's so easy. It's like, it's so easy. So share with them this.
Thank you. And I'll say the thing that has always motivated me, whether in my little health and fitness endeavor or this, it's just been the true, like for me, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm like, everybody has to feel this way. It's just so like, it's too good to keep to myself. So one-to-one coaching is the jam right now. I love that. I would love to have, a container and a space where eventually people, I think in my world and where we're at, my community right now, we're all just like turning inward, self-examining and like looking to like rewire the in. But I feel like as my community, grows and like they get on their, I don't know, training pants and they start walking instead of crawling. Like, I feel like we will just organically have this community where we can all bounce. That's the vision really, is just, a safe space to bounce these shared experiences off of one another. But for now, one-to-one behind the scenes has been the most impactful. I can't tell you, just women in all different types of, demographics, whether married, late in their career, early in their career, kids, no kids, just, for me, it's about women knowing your worth. You don't have to earn it. You were born worthy. The world doesn't tell us that. And here I am, a white woman saying that. So I don't even have the other, layers of barriers over top of me.
Right.
And in this lifetime, I'm grateful for that. So there's, women, the world doesn't work without women. And I feel like this massive shift that is happening, that I've noticed, is we are hungry for a collective change. And I think women are just starting to like catch on. Like, 2020 fucking shook us up, but I think it was no coincidence, and I think it had to happen. And now we're restless. We're done settling. The whole world got inverted, and now we're like, oh, it's almost like, when you swing a pail and that what is it, centrifugal force keeps the water in, but it kind of slowed down, and then 2020 had the thing stopped and the water came whoosh, and now we can fill the bucket back up with dirty water, or we could just throw the fucking bucket out. And I think a lot of women are like, let's do it. Let's be the good, and all those corny cliche things. But I think it's really true. When we heal ourselves, we have this ripple effect. And I know that I'm healing my son's lineage for sure. The thing that was surprising to me was that my aunt, whom I love and admire the most, like, seriously, I love my mother, and she's my mother, and we have a soul contract, but my aunt is like my lady. She has read What Happened to You by Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, and then RRT, and she's been on Dr. John Connolly's website. And I'm just like, you're listening to little old me? And it's like, just stay the course. Just keep being curious about yourself and healing yourself, because you never know how far that ripple is going to span and like whose life you're going to impact. So really, I think in my one-to-ones, that's like the focal point, is remembering your power and your worth. And then the rest of it, it's like, let's like unravel this. Let's erase it. Let's rewire it. Like, what can I do for you?
Exactly. Well, and also the thing about RRT, so I've been in therapy forever. Oh my gosh. And I cleared more in one session with RRT than all the years that I've been in therapy. Literally, and it wasn't even a full session. It was like 20 minutes.
I know.
Yeah. And you saw that huge transformation. I was like, bleh. But it was like
awesome to watch that, and just to like, I was so excited for you, because I know we all showed up for a reason, right? Like, all of us have something inside of us that still is unhealed. And that's what, collectively brought us together in that space. And then, so I was excited for you on like that personal level to watch you like have that transformation. And then so grateful to watch the process too. So it was like, I don't know, it was just such a beautiful thing. Like, I have goosebumps on my right arm.
Me too. Yeah. So basically I say that to say this to anybody, that you don't have to have been that's someone who has gone through therapy for 20 some years. You don't have to be someone who's just like read all the self-help books. You can be someone who's absolutely new to all of this and say, wait a minute, I don't like that I get triggered by this, or I don't like this little voice in my head. You can clear it literally in 20 to 60 minutes. It's so fast. It's so benign. It's nothing like you've ever experienced ever before. And I'm here to tell you, like, Bre just holds that perfect space for that. Oh, hallelujah. It's so good. Yeah. So, where can we find you online and all the interweb spaces so that our people can connect with you? So my people can connect with your people.
Have your people get in touch with my people.
Exactly, yes.
Align with Bre on Instagram. alignwithbre.com is the very, like, that website needs a little bit of CPR, but we've got the Broken to Brave waitlist there, the book coming. Interestingly, today was like my target date for having the whole thing published. And through our work with Andrea Crowder and Dr. Connolly, discovering, a process conflict or an outcome conflict, that has been a whole ass journey. But the Broken to Brave waitlist still lives. Everything is just in the right timing. But they're Facebook all the time. It's Bre Klaas, 2 A's, 1 S. Yep. So German. That's,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah. I'll put all the links in our show notes below. Perfect. So what last nugget of advice or guidance or just channeled message would you like to share with our listeners and viewers today?
Well, I want to bring it full circle. And before we got started, we were talking a little bit about duality in a lighthearted fashion with zodiac signs. But I think, this year more than ever, and I feel like personal growth is almost like a snowball rolling down a hill. Like, it gets bigger and gains more momentum, and then you're just like, whoa, how did I get here? Amazing. But the thing, if you can come to accept it, I think sooner rather than later, the thing that's the most liberating is just being able to tolerate duality in the same space. Like nothing is ever going to be completely aligned 100% forever and ever, but where there is light, there is also dark, and it happens all the time. It's just what you focus on expands. So what do you want to focus on?
Exactly. Well, and that reminds me of the story of the shuttle or a rocket going to the moon. So it's like, this is my target. I am going to the moon. And then it takes off and it gets off course. So it course corrects. And it like 97% of the time, apparently, a rocket, when it goes and it's got that, like that self-correcting, mechanism, 97% of the time it's off course.
Really?
97%. But it just goes, and it just course corrects. And so, yes, I concur that most of the time it feels like, what the fuck am I even doing? I'm trying to get there and I'm over here, and wait, now I'm over here. That's what these little 1-degree shifts are all about. It's just to make those little pivots. And then you get into alignment by recognizing you're out of alignment. And that's one of the things that RRT does, is it allows you to recognize what alignment feels like.
Yes. Because then it evolves over time too. I just did kind of just a really dorky podcast. This just came through on Saturday in my car. I was like, my nails, like, what a weird metaphor for my personal growth over the year, because January 1, 2022, I had bare nails. Like, that was the hill I was going to die on as a nurse. Like, your nails should be natural. They shouldn't be longer than your finger pat, whatever. And then I would just like get a dip, because that was like still justifiable, but I was still like kind of like dimming myself. And now I'm like, these fuckers are glued on. They are not my natural shape. And I don't care if they look fake or whatever, or if you can tell they're not natural. I literally don't give two shits, but it's like, I love them. They bring me joy. And so over time, you just allow yourself to like shed things, and you're like, wow, I never knew. There are other things happening in my world too, where I'm like, oh, I don't know, like purses and shit. I'm like, I never would have bought a Kate Spade a year ago. And now I'm like, but if you're inside, then like what's yourself, what's your voice. And it's not an anxious response or a trauma response or whatever. So it gets to be fun. Like, it gets to be fun.
Yes, I agree with you. And that is one of those happy side effects that personal growth and actually clearing shit does for you. It allows you to find this deep sense of happiness that you kind of only dreamed about, that you're just like, I want that so badly. And then now you're like, well, shit, I have this. This is pretty freaking cool.
Like, oh, we're just getting started, baby. Oh,
yes.
So love it.
I love it. Well, Bre, thank you so much for, oh my gosh, like all the things, blessing us with your presence, your energy, your knowledge, your wisdom. And if you guys have not checked out her podcast, please check it out. I'm going to post season 1, episode 1, that link directly, plus all the places where you can find her. Thank you so much, Bre. I so appreciate you.
It was an honor. I'd love to do it again. We'll see you soon.
Yes, for sure. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And please check out all of the links mentioned in the show notes. I love you guys. See you soon. If you've been loving these episodes, it would mean the world to me if you would rate this podcast on iTunes. A 5-star rating is what I always aim for.